Hello, welcome to the Courageous Self-Care podcast. I'm your host, Christina Marlette. On this show, we talk about self-care that gives you more energy. And I think that's a great place to start because I see so many women who are running around frazzled and exhausted and busy. And at the end of the day, they just fall into bed and wonder, where did the day go? And so when we start taking care of ourselves from the inside out, which is what courageous self-care is in a nutshell, what you'll find is that you are going on a personal discovery journey. You will fall in love with that amazing being who unearths herself as you dig a little deeper, and you will have more energy. And isn't that fantastic? Because energy is what it's all about, I think anyways. On this path and this journey to courageous self-care, it helps to have a guide, because when I just say the words courageous self-care, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. And so I've been delving into this topic for years and years and experimenting on myself and working with clients and giving talks about it. And I have to say, it is better with someone else. So here I am, and I love to get guides on the show who also align with the idea of courageous self-care. So today I have a guest with me. Welcome to the show, Catherine Nelson-Reid.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So glad that you're here, Catherine. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you love to do.
Well, my name is Catherine Nelson-Reid. I have spent many years in the business of yoga. And I say the business of yoga because I owned a studio in Calgary for a number of years, and recently, in last spring, actually sold the studio. And that was a big part of my self-care journey. So since then, I have been working primarily one-on-one with people, mostly women. That seems to be who gravitates to me and who I gravitate to. And many women who are, as you said in your introduction, sort of running in all directions and doing lots of things for everybody else except themselves. I did that for years and years and years, probably 54 of my 55 years. And so where I am now is at a place where I'm so interested and available to be of guidance and service to women who have gone through very similar experiences that I have. So I have a little bit of experience in wearing myself into the ground. Not only as a mother, but as a business person, and as someone who represented and held a community for many years as well. So my new sort of chapter for Catherine is twofold. It's taking care of Catherine, and the other is helping women take care of themselves.
Yes. And it's not a solo job. That is one of the main messages I want to get out across here. And if you've listened to the show before, you will have heard me say that there is nothing, well, the word self in self-care can be really misleading because it makes you think you have to do it all by yourself. But the best self-care is done in community, whether that's with a guide, or it needs to be someone who knows a little bit more than you do, isn't in the same current situation. It's not just complaining to a friend about how hard your life is and how busy you are. It's someone who is going to lift you up and see a vision for you that you might not be able to hold for yourself.
Exactly. And my years of being in the yoga community and watching and helping and mentoring and guiding teachers in yoga and as taking their seats of teachers in the community is something that is so transferable to every single person out there. So, you might not be teaching yoga, but you are teaching your children, or you are teaching the people that you work with. And to be able to hold a steady seat of presence, which is what a yoga teacher would do in a classroom or a workshop or a training. As women, we have we sort of kind of sit in a seat of presence, as long as it's not interfering with anybody else's stuff or we're not in the way. And we don't sit down very often because we're always running around helping other people, but guiding women to really find their seat of presence, not only within their communities and their families and their professions, but within themselves. Number one is to me integral to self-care and to being productive in such a way that it's not depleting.
Yes.
It's empowering and expansive for you. And
Yes.
then it doesn't matter when you're sitting in your seat of power and presence and living your, most inspired existence or life, you can do anything. And everything that is in alignment with your higher purpose, to maybe get a little bit of philosophical in there, starts to align with you. But it starts from the ground up, and we are the ground. And that's something that we forget. We go out and try and find ground, and then we realize, oh, wait a minute, I have no control over that. We have complete and total control over the ground that we set when we realize that we are, in fact, the ground.
Absolutely. I like to call what you're talking about peaceful productivity. So you can be wildly productive and you don't have to be depleted. Like you said, you don't have to be frazzled about it. There are, of course, still emotional ups and downs, but underneath that, what I've found for myself as I've given more and more attention to myself and love and gentleness is this undercurrent. Like, even if I'm crying or I'm sad or I'm going through some difficult rejection or something, underneath there's this constant current that I would call contentment and pervasive happiness. And so it's learning to, everyone has that. Sometimes it's just really, really deep. And
we need to forget about it.
Yeah.
Because we're not using it. We're not using that muscle, so to speak, and it gets, sort of gets pushed off to the side, or it gets a little bit weak.
Yeah.
And we forget.
And really, it's just a skill set. And that's something that I talk about too with self-care, is it's not something about deserving, although that's where a lot of women come from on a deep level, and they might not have uncovered it yet, that they don't actually deserve their own attention. But it's a series of skill sets, and anyone can learn a new skill. And so that's why it is for everyone. All you need to do is learn the skills and implement them. And then you will be on this journey that I was talking about before. Exactly. Yeah. So, Catherine, I love to get our guests to share a current favorite nourishing, nurturing self-care practice. And the reason I like to do that is because I love hearing people's versions of self-care, because we're all unique and individual, and what nourishes one person might not cut it for the next person. But also it's fun to get ideas on what might work for us as listeners. So what's something that you love to do for yourself that fills you up?
Well, when you asked me that, it's like, where should I start?
Yes.
With my focus really honing in on taking care of Catherine.
Yes.
I remember when someone asked me why I was stepping out of what I was doing and making this change, and I said, because I'm going to take some time and look after Catherine. And they asked me if Catherine was my daughter, and I said, no, me. And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? So, and then the other thing that struck me as humorous is that or not humorous, but interesting, was that what you hope to do is self-care beyond chocolate and bath and glass of wine. And a number of years ago, I decided that I needed to take better care of myself and take more time. So I started this 30-day bath challenge, because I'm all about the stickers and all about the results. Yes. And keeping track and accountable. So I started this 30-day bath challenge, and that is that has become over the years, that's a non-negotiable. That's part of just my daily existence, is having a bath. And that's not my number one self-care. It's just, that's to me that's brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
That's what I do. But so many women say, oh, well, I'm going to have a bath, and they have a bath for 5 minutes. And that's not, nothing will help you if you only do it for 5 minutes. My biggest self practice for self-care over the last probably 6 or 7 years, and more intensely in the last couple of years, has been the practice of Yoga Nidra. And Yoga Nidra is the practice of deep conscious sleep. So it's a sleeping body, if you will, and an awakened mind. So not necessarily a brain, but so we let the body essentially go unconscious, so that our higher consciousness, that is more subtle than the denseness of the physical layer of the body, can become more expansive. And I have found that this has been a game changer, a life changer. You name it. The key thing with the Yoga Nidra practice is the deep relaxation, that not only for the body, but for the nervous system. And that is, to me, the number one thing right now that is just snowballing and amplifying in our culture, is that everyone's nervous system is running like in fight or flight nonstop. They don't know what it's like to be in balance or to be within their window of tolerance. And when we're out of our mind busy, and we're running our nervous system at, full tilt all the time, we can't make rational decisions. We miss detail. We can't see what we're experiencing. We're in a total place of reactivity. And this is like sucking the life out of us, because we're missing the beauty that's around us at all times. And the practice of Yoga Nidra has this capacity, and this is my experience, is that it allows me to slow the playing field down, so that I can see. And the practice itself is an internal practice, which allows me to go in and visit all the layers of myself, if you will, and have an experience with them and notice what's going on, so that I can go in consciously, lovingly, and make some changes, or update my software, or, however you want to put it. As I teach this practice, all of the people that I work with one-on-one, whether it be a one-off or, in group sort of sessions, or number of sessions, there's a component of this work in it. And because I've seen just such huge transformation in my own personal experience. And one of the key elements, besides the relaxation of the nervous system, and it's the golden key, or the seed to this practice, is the practice of Sankalpa. And Sankalpa is, it's been called intention or affirmation, and that really isn't what it is. Sankalpa is a very concentrated, rich seed or directive that, when placed in a relaxed body and a wakeful mind as a seed, has tremendous power, if you will, to be broadcast, become the new programming system for all the layers of ourselves. So to give you an example, the self-care practice of Yoga Nidra and Sankalpa that I've been working with has been, I choose to be true to myself. So putting the I am is present time. So it's not like I'm hoping to,
Right.
be happy, or I'm hoping to be peaceful. It's an I am. So it's a very clear directive in present time that you already are that. I am choosing, and I'm working with choice right now.
Yes.
As a very intentional word, to be true to myself. So in my practice, I weave that in very carefully into my Sankalpa that's repeated into my Yoga Nidra practice. I also take that practice out of the practice of Yoga Nidra. And when I'm in a place, like even in conversation with you over email, discussing the potential of doing this podcast, I sat for some time and thought about, okay, is this in line with, is this true to me?
Right.
And, if it had been a no, I would have said, thank you for the opportunity. And this isn't true for me right now.
Right.
So that's my biggest self-care practice right now, is staying true to Catherine. And that's the most effective way that I've found to really keep myself accountable and in line with my practice of staying true to myself.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Catherine.
It's even as simple as, like staying up late.
Yeah.
No, that's not a good idea, because tomorrow you're going to be, you're going to be exhausted.
Right.
And it's been a clear directive for me in the people that I've worked with too. And I'm very discerning with the people that choose to work with me, and I choose to work with them.
Well, you explained that really clearly. Thank you. That gives us a great idea of what it is and how. And if people want to know more about it, we'll get your info at the end of the show. Right now, we're going to pause for a brief word from our sponsors, and then we will be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking around for part 2. And this is a great part to listen to, just like part 1. So I love to get our guests on the show, or my guests on the show, it's me, to share a story of courage. And the reason I love to do that is because, in a nutshell, courage is contagious. And we might feel like we aren't courageous enough to move through what life is throwing at us. But when we hear stories of courage and we get our energy intertwined with the possibility of being courageous, and then we build on that muscle, we too can make courageous choices. So, Catherine, we are waiting with bated breath to hear your story of courage.
Okay. So I gave this some thought as well. And I thought what I would do is just share a little story with you. A year and a bit ago, I came back from India, and I had been away for the first time from my business for almost a month. And up till then, I had not taken any time off at all, other than, a handful of days here and there. And I knew that there was something that had to change for me, and I didn't quite know what it was. And like all good people, when New Year's comes along, I make a list of things that I want to do in my coming year. And I sat down to do that, and there was nothing I could write down, like nothing. It wasn't like, I want to lose 10 pounds and there was nothing came to me except I need to take care of myself. That was it. And so I was like, well, what does that look like? And I couldn't even splinter that out into what that meant for me. And then I had this dream one morning, and I was staying at my mom's at the time, and I, in my dream, looked out her window, and she lives out in the country, and there's always animals around. So in my dream, I was looking out the window and I could see myself sort of looking, couldn't see anything. And then I could see something black on the snow. And I had to sort of step up to the window and look down so that I could see. And what I saw in my dream was this big, huge bear, except it was lying in the snow. And this might sound gross, but it was completely gutted. It was just lying there like a bearskin rug kind of thing. And I woke up and I had such a visceral response to my dream. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's me. That's how I am feeling.
Yeah.
Completely gutted, completely emptied. And it was a huge realization for me that I needed to make some big change in my life and take care of Catherine. And the only way that could happen was for me to step out of my business and my community. And so I went through this huge, like, I can't do that. I can't leave these people. They depend on me. I have, we are this in the community, and I am, I'm riding at the bow of the ship, and da 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 da. And how could I possibly do that? And I just, I went through a lot of suffering with that decision. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I was clear, as soon as I said, yes, I'm going to do this, I have no choice, and I'm terrified and I don't know what it'll look like after, everything happened within weeks.
Wow.
My business was sold. I stepped out and I was into a whole new chapter of Catherine and that reclaiming of me.
I think what you're saying, Catherine, is so important for anyone in any kind of position of leadership to hear. And like you said, that might be a leader in your family, that might be a leader in your community, it might be a leader in your business. And I think we continue to make adjustments to do more and more and more, and we just let it pile on until, for a lot of people, it turns into crisis or chaos. And rather than get to that point, you were able to listen to the nudges, and they amplified their volume in your dream, and yes, you were willing to take action on it, even though it was scary. And I think that is such a clear illustration of what courage is. Like, you get these nudges, you feel like there is something that you are needing to shed or let go of, and in addition, move towards. But there's fear, and there's suffering, and there's questioning. And when we are very clear on what's on the other side of that fear, we can allow ourselves to be magnetically drawn towards it, which is why things happen for you in just a matter of weeks when you got that clarity and you made that firm decision for yourself. And that is just such a clear illustration of what courage actually is. We need to know what's on the other side that we're moving towards. We can't just let go of something without knowing what we want to get to. What's the next step for me? And I love that you acted on that dream. That's really powerful.
Well, the other thing that is so, like you say, knowing what's on the other side. And I think of just in that dream example of me having to look over the window and down to see what was there. And it's that piece of what we're moving towards. That doesn't necessarily mean a good thing.
Right. Yes.
Towards being that skinned, emptied, gutted bear with the birds picking at it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or, and being aware of where we are headed with our actions and with the way that we move and navigate our life, but also how we move ourselves through that is so key.
Yeah. And also being okay with the unknown and the mystery. We're not meant to know. You didn't know, like when I talk about, what you're moving towards, it's a value or an idea. Like, you were moving towards taking care of you, or even just stopping how life is now. I can't carry on with this. I know there must be something different. And we can always assume that it's going to be better.
Not necessarily, though.
And but our soul, like the reason that we're drawn towards these challenges is because our soul is wanting to expand. And the only way that we can do that is by following the guidance that we're getting. If we continue to ignore it, then we do end up like that bearskin rug with nothing left.
The body is such an excellent example, because when we are needing to change, the body is telling us all the time.
Yes.
And then if we don't listen to it, the body will take us down, because it'll be too small for what it needs to do, and we get sick.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I saw the bear.
Yes.
Before the bear got me.
Yes. Right.
And that's the piece of that I just love working with women with, because like you said, we're too busy taking care of other people, and we're too busy trying to do more.
Right. And we're physiologically built to nurture. Mm-hmm. And the most difficult person to nurture is ourselves first.
Totally.
Yes. But it makes a difference.
Master that, when women, and you'll see that in the greatest female leaders, or just, it doesn't even have to be female, but greatest leaders in the world, they know how to feed themselves.
Yeah.
On all levels.
Right.
And that's the key thing. We need to take care of ourselves so that we can contribute to the world and to the people in our world.
Yeah, because contribution is important.
Yes.
And we can't do it from an empty vessel.
No.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that story. That's really powerful. And I love that you talked about dreams in there too. That's so cool. So I'm sure our listeners are wondering how they can connect with you, what this Yoga Nidra is, and how it can transform their lives. So where can people find you?
People can find me on good old Facebook. My name is Catherine with a C, Nelson-Reid. And I also teach and am a founding member of the School of Sankalpa, which is a Yoga Nidra school. And you can look me up, just Google School of Sankalpa, and we're listed there. I'm listed in the faculty there. And you can email me directly at CatNelsonReid, CatNelsonReid @gmail.com. And like I said, I work primarily one-on-one with people, and everything from nervous system regulation to cultivating a strong sense of presence. And then I also work with shifting limiting belief patterns, like, the good old I'm not enough.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, Catherine, it's been a real pleasure to connect with you in this way. I love what you shared with us. I think it's so powerful. It obviously aligns directly with courageous self-care. And I'm so grateful to have listened to you and heard your stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And what I want to reiterate to you listening is that courageous self-care is a combination of both internal and external self-care practices. So if you're only doing external stuff, it's like putting on a Band-Aid on a giant wound that is just not going to do the trick. You also need to go internal, which is what Catherine has been sharing about, to getting to the different layers of yourself and going deeper than the surface. So I give you a giant gold virtual star for listening today, and giving yourself this time. Learning and being in other people's energy is definitely a form of courageous self-care. So big gold star for you. And this podcast airs usually once or twice a week. So I invite you to come back, listen to more, and encourage you to start practicing or continue practicing both internal and external self-care. Thank you again, Catherine, for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. I look forward to connecting with you again next time. Bye-bye for now.